Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Digitally Uploaded podcast, the companion podcast at digitallydownloaded.net. My name is Alan, and I'm going to be your host for this fine whatever it is for you. We've also got Matt, who is the editor-in-chief of digitallydownloaded.net here. He's currently in Japan, though. Matt, what's it like on the other side of the world?
It's good.
Yes.
It's good.
Uh-huh.
Very good.
That's incredibly descriptive.
Excellent.
There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. And we also have Trent as well.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Trent. How are you?
Good. I've accidentally arranged sportball events. Oh no.
That's good. That's a good thing to arrange.
It's that day back in
It's the most
today.
wonderful time of the year. It's grand final day. That's pretty exciting to everyone who knows what that is and just wants to have an excuse to have drinks on an afternoon and not be judged as an alcoholic.
We should say it's AFL Grand Final Day because a lot of people who
who
are not in Australia might not know what we're talking about. AFL basically being Australia's religion.
Yeah,
In Australia, it's a long weekend, so you don't need AFL to be drunk as an excuse. You can get drunk anyway because it's AFL. I'm not AFL because it's long. It's a long weekend. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit around. People won't judge.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so some little newsy news that we have this week. I'm going to start it all off with talking about Sony finally caving to Fortnite's pressure, which is fantastic. Because now we have crossplay for Fortnite only, which hopefully is the gateway to further crossplay. But Sony, being Sony, will be probably quite resistant to that. I see zero problems with this. I think it's a good thing. Larger player bases, larger everything. Not like Fortnite needs a larger player base, but it's good.
Well, I mean, it does mean more people will play Fortnite, which is not good.
Hopefully, it goes to games like Rocket League, which is actually good, or Minecraft, which is also good, and last generation's fad.
I thought you were just going to say The Last Jedi. Can't wait to crossplay Last Jedi on my PS4.
Armello is great. Armello's on everything now. It came out on Switch this week.
I saw. That's quite nice.
So have that crossplay everywhere. That would be good because Armello's great. Very great.
Yeah. What's something that stood out to you, Matt?
I'll say Armello. I haven't been following the news so much this week. I've been road tripping around Japan. So, I've been really out of it. So I'll just say Armello is out on Switch, and that makes me happy because that's a very good game and Aussie
great game
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of hours playing that and just being really angry.
I'll be playing it a lot because I can't watch the AFL final, so I need to do something Aussie. I'll play that.
Fair enough. I'll accept that. I'll accept your apology. I require a note, however. And Trent, what do you think is a big thing for this week?
This big thing for this week? Well, like Matt, I haven't actually been following the news. So I'm going to say the fact that there was a video game category on Jeopardy and everyone just flunked it and didn't know anything about video games.
I'm happy to hear that. Is this another thing of like, what is Donkey Kong?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, but modernized to like the current generation of bad video games.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, with that, we're going to head to some music and then come back and talk about some TGS stuff with Matt. And welcome back. It was very sing-songy for a very sing-songy morning. Matt's been in TGS. I mean, he's been in Japan, but he's also been in TGS as well, I guess. And so, as such, Matt's going to tell us all about what he saw and what glorious games he's found.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I guess it's a little bit older now by the time you listen to this podcast, but it was really good to see all the stuff happening at TGS, and all the good stuff. What can I start with? I guess the indie section was really good this year. Really big, huge. They'll be building that up a little bit by bit, I guess. But this year it was really, really big. Took up about a quarter of one of the halls, which is I mean, it's hard to put in perspective, I guess, if you haven't been there, but that's grown probably at least doubled in size since the first year I went to TGS.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's been supported by both Sony and Nintendo. Usually every year where I go, the indie section's just got these big flags kind of, hanging up on the roof above it saying, from Sony, saying we love Sony and stuff. Because they obviously sponsored it, and Sony loves indies and all of those taglines, and most of the games that are in there you can play on Sony consoles. But this year Nintendo seemed to, I don't know if they sponsored it or not, because Nintendo doesn't usually have much to do with TGS, but there was definitely Nintendo flags all over the place, and a lot of the games were Switch games as well, which was nice. I guess it's good to see different consoles and stuff. And
how was Microsoft's presence?
Microsoft. Well, Microsoft actually had like twice as many games.
What?
There. Yeah, the Xbox had like twice as many games there as it did.
So I had 2 games.
Yeah, 40 rather than 20 out of like 1,000. So it's still a very small presence, but it was, I was surprised. Microsoft didn't have any direct presence there, but there was a fair few games that are coming out on the Xbox One in Japan over the next 12 months for whatever reason.
For all 4 people in Japan who own an Xbox One.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly mean setting the world on fire. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see, because this year was definitely, the Switch was a huge deal this year, where it wasn't as much so last year. Because again, Nintendo doesn't go to TGS, so whatever presence is there is from third parties, and that usually means there isn't much. Like through the Wii U, there was never any Wii U games on display.
That was just an accurate representation of the Wii U catalog, though. To be fair.
yeah. Except for Nintendo, there wasn't much ever released anyway. But yeah, this year it was a very Nintendo heavy thing.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good to see that.
If you could pick one game from the show, Matt, one video Grimble.
Yeah.
What would you say would be your pick of the show?
Well, what do you think I would pick, Alan?
Some anime game with breasts.
Dead or Alive 5, maybe?
5 again.
I don't know what number we're up to.
6.
6. Yes, 6. Definitely, I like that one the most. I think I played it 4 or 5 times. I lined up for the demo 4 or 5 times.
Oh, so you do like that game?
I do. I'm completely turned around on it now that I've played it. I really like it. It's really good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Because go back in time about 6 or so weeks. No, 6 weeks, like half a year, I think. Yeah, oh my gosh. And you see Matt just being the most upset boy in the history of mankind.
Or even probably last week's podcast.
It was quite a turn on a pinhead sort of thing there.
Well, the thing is, they haven't actually changed that much about it. It's still very much the Dead or Alive that I liked from 5, with a very similar combat system.
How's the blood stuff?
Obviously,
I don't like the blood stuff.
Yeah, you can turn the blood stuff off, which I did, which is good.
But can you make it more gory?
Probably.
And yeah, it hasn't actually lost any of that other stuff which people complain about.
Tell me about that stuff, Matt.
it hasn't really lost any of that. It's slightly different, I guess, in tone, because the game's got a slightly more realistic aesthetic, I want to say. It's slightly less ridiculously funny, I guess. But it's still definitely a feature of the game. And I don't know, I think people who were a little bit concerned about that sort of stuff, as I was, will probably find that there's plenty of fan service up in Dead or Alive 6. Especially once they start doing the extra costumes and stuff, because they will. We all know they will.
Yeah, that's a fair call to make.
So yeah, I was very impressed with that. Koei's booth in general, I'm always pretty happy with. They've also got Warriors Orochi 4 coming along, which is really good. That comes out really soon in the West too, I think. I think it's like a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw an ad for that recently.
Yeah, and it was really good fun, and should be, because they've added Greek gods and Norse gods and stuff to.
They've added Kratos, the god of war.
Yeah, no, they have a little bit more taste than that, but they do have Greek gods in there.
I hate that.
Like Athena, I think. I think I played with Athena in the demo, and yeah, she was pretty powerful. She'd take Kratos pretty easily.
I mean, she didn't. She aggressively didn't.
She would this time around.
She's horribly dead.
She would this time around. What else did I play? Oh, I found the Konami, the track and field game to be surprisingly good fun. Which is
that's a weird thing to be good.
I found it to be surprisingly good fun because that's coming out on the Switch, right? And
it's not motion controlled, is it?
Yes, it is.
That's the Track and Field R remake thing game.
Yes,
right? Yes.
So, for a bit of history, way back in 1983, Konami released an arcade game called Track and Field, which was actually Hypersports in Japan.
Hypersports is so much better of a name.
It is, and it was really good. It actually was like it's one of those games that people who track the history of games consider to be really influential, really important, and really, really successful game and all that. And Hypersports R, as this one's called, I guess it'll be called Track and Field R out in the West, but it is basically like a Switch update of that game, and yeah, it's really good. It's good fun. I don't know how long it'll last you, but if you play in multiplayer, it can get very competitive, and it works. I don't know. I wasn't expecting much.
I love the idea of it works being a really big, like, positive tick.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they support it as well, because Bomberman R, for example, it came out and it didn't really have good. Not a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is okay," but it's very rough around the edges. But they've updated that game so much since launch; it's almost like a brand new, completely different game. So it'll be interesting to see if there's that same level of support with Hypersports.
Track and field as a service.
Track and field. I don't know. I was just really, I was expecting it to be terrible shovelware, and it wasn't. So, met and exceeded my expectations. Konami's booth in general is always good at TGS because everybody always says Konami's a dying company and they never release any games and they haven't got any IP and all that kind of nonsense. But they always
no games.
they always have one of the biggest booths at TGS, and it's always one of the most popular booths because they've got stuff that they don't release out in the West. That's always really popular. Gets big lines like the baseball one with the bobbleheads. Can't remember the name.
Koei. No, it's Konami's Slam Masters or something like that.
Yeah, that one. It's really popular in Japan. Really,
it's got a cute little
popular.
chibi boy as
that's the one.
Yeah.
And they always have a ginormous long lineup for Love Plus, which is that their dating game simulator, which really kind of kicked off dating game simulators as a genre. And they've got one coming out for iPhone, which has VR capabilities and stuff. And it's really like the lineup was at least an hour long every time I walked past it all over the weekend. All over the 2 days of the professional days. So, yeah, it's a really popular franchise. So Konami's booth is always really popular and really big, and anybody who says Konami's dying just doesn't have a clue.
I just miss the days of Time Hollow or, Lost in Blue or, those sort of games. Like, where's the Konami of that sort of era? I guess with the R series, I'm excited to see maybe they'll do more stuff in R and bring back a lot more of those older ones, which I like, though. So that's good.
Who knows? I mean...
and also, before we move on really quickly to anything else, they've announced a remaster for Symphony of the Night for PS4. Yeah.
Indeed.
I'm very excited. That's a good game.
Yeah, I don't bother with Sony's booth at TGS and stuff. Just talking about Sony because... the lineup's always too busy and it's too long there. I did find it amusing that Ghost of Tsushima had absolutely nobody paying attention to it in Japan. That made me laugh because that's Sony pretending that they can get white boys to make a game about Japan. That's not going to happen. And then just to finish off, I guess the other one I really wanted to mention was Earth Defense Force Iron Rain.
The game looks good.
It is so good. And I'm absolutely shocked because that's D3 Publisher, and D3 Publisher generally makes, trash games. Well,
they just make trash.
Games that even fans would say are trash, like Schoolgirl Zombie Hunter and Oni Chambara and
that's the cowboy tit game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
And the previous Earth Defense Force games were very much like that. They were an awful lot of fun, but they were pretty trashy. But this one actually looks like they've put some budget into it, and it's legitimately good.
It's not just made of dust and cobwebs.
It's still very much a kind of B-grade themed game because it's still big giant robots and ants and cockroaches and stuff, and you've got to shoot them down in big hordes and stuff. But yeah, the production values are really quite good, and it's I was really impressed by it, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to actually get my hands on the full thing. As a big fan of Earth Defense Force, it's like it's all grown up.
Yeah. And I think with that, we'll go to some music. We'll get some Earth Defense Force going on in here, I think. That's a good idea.
To save our Mother Earth from any alien attack, from vicious giant insects who have once again come back, we'll unleash all our forces, we won't cut them any slack. The EDF deploys. Our soldiers are prepared for any alien threats. The Navy launches ships, the Air Force sends their jets, and nothing can withstand our fixed bayonets. The EDF deploys. Our forces have now dwindled and we pull back to regroup. The enemy has multiplied and formed a massive group. We'd better beat these bugs before we're all turned to soup. The EDF deploys to take down giant insects who came from outer space. We now head underground, for their path we must retrace, and find their giant nest and crush the queen's carapace. The EDF deploys. The Air Force and the Navy were destroyed or cast about. Scouts, Rangers, winged divers have almost been wiped out. Despite all this, the infantry will stubbornly hold out. The EDF deploys. Our friends were all killed yesterday, as were our families. Today we may not make it facing these atrocities. We'll never drop our banner despite our casualties. The EDF deploys. 2 days ago my brother died, next day my lover fell. Today most everyone was killed, on that we must not dwell. But we will never leave the field, we'll never say farewell. The EDF deploys.
Stop that depressing crap! Then how about this song? A legendary hero soon will lead us to glory. 8 years ago he sunk the mothership,
Says history. Tomorrow we will follow this brave soul to victory. The EDF deploys.
I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember that quite a lot. That's my that's my segue into Telltale. Hooray! I mean, sad. Yeah, Telltale closed, if you were not aware, and it also just completely destroyed its employees for no reason and cut 250 of them without severance pay, which is great because they were hiring people up until the end of last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad. Telltale as a company was probably the first major company to really do the episodic game narrative sort of thing well. And I would say that they only did it well twice in The Walking Dead 1 and then Wolf Among Us. Yeah, so they made a bunch of adventure games such as Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Minecraft Story Mode, and Borderlands, but that was so frustrating. It's
IP it exists.
Yeah, name an IP that exists. They were going to make a Stranger Things one as well, but that's not going to happen anymore. And they basically announced on Twitter that they were shutting down completely, except for a skeleton crew to finish off the end of Walking Dead season 3, I believe.
Which isn't even happening now.
Netflix one. The Netflix, there's a Netflix Minecraft, and they're making that the Netflix story mode. That's what the skeleton crew is for.
Yeah, they're actually not finishing The Walking Dead, Alan.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Oh, lol. All right. Cool. That's even dumber. This is dumb. Yeah, it's really, really sad because it just seems like the most incredible mismanagement on any company's behalf. And I just love their committal to doing the Netflix story mode thing and then just deciding that instead of paying their workers and treating their workers like humans, they decided to finish a game. It's cool, right? This industry isn't a total disaster. It's fine.
I mean, the thing is, they obviously spent an awful lot of money on getting all those IPs, acquiring all those IPs to turn into video games. And as far as I think people have done some sleuthing, people weren't playing anything that wasn't Walking Dead, basically.
Even then, were people playing Walking Dead? Because I stopped after season 1 because I was like, this is a good contained story. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers showed that people were still playing the Walking Dead games, but everything else they were not. And the thing about episodic games, I think, which kind of people now know, is if they're not selling, unfortunately, you can't just stop. you got to see.
Yeah. It's sort of like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, only 2 people have bought this game, but we've got 6 episodes to go. What the are we going to do? But they still got to finish it. So,
make it using paint. It's fine.
So I think that kind of that that's a lot of commitment you got to throw in there, and unless you're absolutely sure it's going to be a success, it's actually hard to see that commitment through, or can be very unprofitable. And unfortunately for Telltale, they had no other revenue streams. It was purely their, adventure games, and they all self-published, so they didn't have any financial support from publishers and all that kind of stuff either.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just it was poorly managed, and unfortunately, when a company's poorly managed and it's an American company, the workers suffer because in America, labor laws are really bad, really bad, and they can get away with stuff like not giving severance pay and all that kind of stuff to staff because the labor laws are that bad.
Yeah, it just sucks. It's a really sad situation. But the coolest thing was all the other companies just putting up like Telltale employees on Twitter. That was really nice. That was pleasant to see.
It's always good to see the games industry come together when stuff like that happens, because they do. I think everybody knows, especially again American development companies and people who work in them. Everybody knows how crappy the environment can be. So wherever possible, they try to help each other out, which is good to see. But yes, I think Telltale is a good lesson for everybody else.
Yeah.
Because their games were that good anyway.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you all enjoy playing a Game of Thrones game, which was just terrible, and then the Borderlands game, which made me want to scream?
Well, let's put it this way. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you're going to play that game. But if you're not, you're not. So if they're making all these games with like IP, which is, it's popular, but, like, let's put it this way. Game of Thrones fans are probably not gamers. Like, they're probably just watching.
Well, I think there's a pretty big sort of.
There's a big crossover there.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like they're watching their, HBO. They're, probably more dude bro. They're not going to play some story game for what they see on the books or the TV. Like,
if they were going to play a Game of Thrones game, to be fair, it would have to be like a full-on like Skyrim sort of thing for that mainstream crowd to really enjoy that.
No,
just
I don't know if
reskin Spider-Man.
The thing is, I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and I didn't finish that Telltale Games.
Because it was bad.
It's bad. I think it's funny that it's actually taken people, the studio, to close to really start to talk about what they actually thought about those games, because. For the longest time, people have been like, Telltale Games are, reliably good fun and all that kind of stuff, and the reviews weren't, scathing. But now that the studio's closed, people are actually now starting to talk about what they actually thought about the games, which is good, because the games are terrible.
Except for Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead 1.
They had a good start. Those games showed potential for what could be done with it, but... the kind of choice-driven narrative experiences, but they never got any better. They just kind of regressed to the point where the choices mattered less and less, and you felt like you had even less of a role in the games, and they just became very lazy in development, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep, it sucks.
Which is unfortunate, because the developers, I'm sure there's a lot of very talented people on the development teams, but they weren't allowed to let their talents take flight.
It
when
sucks.
they were Telltales.
It's really upsetting because 250 people just lost their jobs. That's not good. Yeah. But hopefully it's okay for them. Hopefully they find jobs themselves in the future, which would be fantastic. But yeah,
I hope every single one of them finds a job. But I'm personally quite glad that we'll never have to deal with Telltale Games again.
And with that incredibly positive tone, we'll head to some music really quickly.
Telltale Games music.
Yeah, I'll pick like the Walking Dead theme.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. And welcome back from that incredibly suspenseful little theme. We're talking finally at the end of this podcast about something that's just as dumb. It's really dumb. Matt's dying.
Lightly.
Yeah.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. So, if anyone has ever played a Total War game, you'll know that there are generally like generals that will be born and like you'll have in your armies and that sort of thing. Apparently, women do not exist in Roman times. So basically, Creative Assembly added a patch a while ago to Total War Rome 2, where you could see the like birth generation rates for generals, and people shit the bed over this. This is the end of the world. Like, this is the problem that society needs to face instantly. It's women generals in armies that had women generals in the past. Yeah, so if you were on Twitter at all, you would have seen the shit show of 30-plus-year-old men screaming because they have women generals in armies, which is it's great.
It's really weird because firstly the patch is like 6 months old, and it's just come to light now because the nature of things, male and female generals are randomly generated by this game, not the historical ones, obviously, the kind of the no-name ones that the game comes up with when it's randomly created in character. And through pure luck of the randomization process, some dude ended up with a mix of male and female generals, which was basically 50%. So 50% of them were male, 50% of them were female. And he threw a massive tantrum about this, and because it wasn't historically authentic or some crap. And the Creative Assembly people, he did that. He threw his tantrum on, I think, their forums, and Creative Assembly sent a message back to say, well, use a mod if you don't want to have women generals in your game, or play something else. And that really set people off. They've since review bombed it. So now the previously positive review scores from user reviews on Steam and whatnot have been turned into quite negative ones. And yeah, I don't know. It's so strange.
It's almost like a game where you can change the course of history by conquering the entire ancient world as like Mesopotamia.
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
It was okay. I think historically speaking, there were not that many female generals in the Roman army. Okay, so if you're making a completely realistic game, then yes, you wouldn't have so many female generals. But Total War's never been realistic. It's been authentic, which is a different thing entirely. And they've gone out of their way to kind of make the scenarios and all of that kind of true to the history. But they've always taken creative liberties in terms of how they represent the history. And I don't see any reason why one of those creative liberties can't be to have female generals as well as male generals. It makes no sense to me to complain about this, but people do. I don't know why. It confuses me greatly.
I'm going to butcher her name, but Bodacia? Is that how you say her name? English names confuse me. She was pretty big, and she still has statues in England. And
there were certainly
it's like these people are getting mad over things that actually would have happened.
There are certainly female military people in the back those days, especially Rome's enemies, the Celts and various other rivals. They often used women in their armies because they just didn't have the numbers otherwise to field an army. So the women needed to fight as well, and they did. They did it very well. So yeah, I don't understand why people would complain about historical realism in a game that's firstly not historically realistic, and then their only thing that they're complaining about happens to be the presence of women in the game, and not everything else that's historically inaccurate about Total War and whatnot.
I would like to read a tweet that I have found.
Oh no, not a tweet.
Although I spent more than 1,400 hours on your games, none of your games attract me anymore. Okay. I played Paradox games, and I don't think I can ever get back to your games. You are destroying Total War. Like, cool. Like, this is the sort of person who's upset about women generals.
Well, that's the thing. Paradox's games, I assume.
And they're just as, like... they have
Well-
women generals.
Well, the other thing is Paradox games do have the ultra realistic kind of setting, where you can, everything's tried to simulate down to the most finite detail, the actual the real history, and that's fine. That's exactly, if he wants to play that game, he can play a Paradox game. That's what the Total War person was saying. If you don't like our game, play something else. So yeah. Why complain about it? There's a lot of games I don't like. I don't play them.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like that you can solve the problem. Yeah, I think I want to end off with a wonderful article that I found by Pointing Clickbait, which is titled "Total War Player Review Bombs Own Wife After She Gives Birth to Historically Inaccurate Number of Daughters." It's perfect.
Those guys are great.
They're
Pointing
fantastic.
Clickbait. They're the onion. They're the onion of video games, but and just like the onion, they're often the most
correct.
accurate reporting.
Most
Yeah, the
realistic
most accurate
articles.
reporting.
Yeah, so honestly, if you have a problem with Total War having women, you're wrong. Just go.
Just play something else. Well, the thing is that
Go spend your time doing something happy. Go outside.
But
yeah,
video games
Get-
are their happy place,
get-
and they don't
get a-
want
get a
no
hobby.
woman in it.
I don't understand, because it's so obvious they don't actually care about the history anyway.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't care
because
about-
they've done
if
high
they cared
school.
about-
They did year 10 history and just assumed that that's what history is.
if even that, they just don't care about it. It's just like this convenient excuse to have a go at having women characters in a video game. But if they cared about the history, they wouldn't care. I don't think any historian would care about women generals in Total War.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, with that, we don't think we
Total
have
War music. Total War.
Yeah, Total War, there. Yeah, let's go Total War music. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good game series. You should play it if you're not upset by women.
yeah, very good. Looking forward to Free Kingdom as well. That'll be good.
Yeah.